Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back. It is 9:49 a.m. and I am so thrilled to be doing this interview with our final guest for the morning. After all of that doom and gloom, politics and everything else this morning on the show, it is definitely going to be a breath of fresh air, I think, talking with Dr. Riaad Moosa about his upcoming live tour. Now, I just asked him, what's it with the guys this morning on the show? Earlier on, we spoke to a brother in Palestine. He also was sitting in the car and did the interview with us. And lo and behold, Riaad Moosa comes on and he's also sitting in the car. I've got to be careful what I say to this guy today. I've got to be careful about the type of questions I throw at him because he might just throw it right back at me. Salaam alaikum. Welcome to the program.
Wa alaikum salam. I'm sorry, I'm in the car. Well, it's holiday time, so all the kids are having all the activities. So my son
Oh,
is going
so,
to Table Mountain today, so we just
oh,
dropped him off.
wow.
I actually thought that the interview was at 9, so the timing
Okay.
was a little bit out for me. So the baby is in the back,
I heard the
having too
baby
much
crying.
having too much screen time, but
Okay.
uh,
Okay. We'll
yeah.
take responsibility for that. We'll take responsibility for that. Lovely to have you on the show, Riyadh. And I think we as South Africans are excited about your upcoming tour. You are on holiday. When and where does your tour start? When does it kick off? And
Well, it
also, let me just add this. So pleased to see that you are taking the part of being mom's taxi today. Lovely. You're sending out a very strong message to other dads out there.
Yeah, no, that's a usual thing. This is what we do when I'm around. But obviously, me being on tour has put a little bit of pressure on Fazana having to do a lot more. So I think everybody is happy that I'm going on tour. I don't think she's as happy as everyone. But we do what we need to do, and uh, uh, so I actually started with a tour last week in Durban. I did, I think I did Empangeni and I did actual Durban, and the shows were quite big and they went well. And inshallah, now I'm going to get on a plane tomorrow and go to Dubai to
Oh,
actually do
wow.
a stand up comedy show. And I'm presenting my new movie material.
Hello. Hello.
Kind of a little bit ill. We all got a little bit of a cold. Uh,
Okay. It's okay. It's okay. He can be part of dad's interview. I don't mind.
eh? You want to be part of the interview, bro? And then he's saying no,
Okay.
no.
So,
So
Riyadh, let me ask you this question. It's amazing that you're going to Dubai, for example, to do a comedy show, stand up comedy. Are you going to be, is your target audience there South Africans, the expats? Because I kind of wondered, what about, other nationalities, expats from other parts of the world? How do you then cater for them? Because surely for a South African audience, the comedy is pretty unique. We speak our
no,
own lingo, etc., etc.
now the way in which I do my stand up now, it's more personal. So most people should be able to get the jokes. The
Okay,
problem with most times accent,
okay,
accent I speak, but
all
but
right,
the subject matter,
all
um,
right.
it should be translated. Like we can watch American comedians, English
Yes,
comedians.
hmm,
Uh, not a problem because obviously we know their culture. It's easier for us to
right,
get.
right.
But the main problem is accent.
Okay,
And whether they and also for me, which can be a difficult thing, is people don't know how to box me in a sense from Africa. Like when I do these international shows, we say Africa, Luis Ogola, from Africa, Tumi Morake, people get that. But then I say from South Africa, Riaad Moosa, and then I walk on stage and then I have this accent, and then people don't know how to box me and they don't understand
absolutely.
where. I come from. So I actually got to spend a lot of time answering questions that they have
Okay.
first up before I actually go into any other material. But I do it in a funny way. So I
Of
generally start with my
course.
intent and so on and so forth, and talk about myself. And a lot of my humor now is personal, but I mean predominantly about being married with 4 kids and being a doctor.
Alhamdulillah.
And so we're talking about those things. So I do talk about the South Africanness of things, but it's more like people get insight into my world. Uh,
Okay.
but there's a lot of things that people also identify with because everybody can identify with family and kids, and so even if I go online, there's a lot of people from different parts of the world that follow my jokes. But I would say the biggest problem is the accent.
Okay, I know you have been born and bred in Cape Town, of course. Is that your permanent base? Is that where you still live?
Yes, that's right.
Okay,
We are by
all right.
table mind.
uh, how difficult is it, and how long do you work to prepare for a tour like this? People just assume you are a funny man all of the time, but there is a serious side to you. You have to, you know, the business of living has to carry on. So it must take time for you to put together a show like this. Undoubtedly, you're also one of those people who think on your feet and you can turn the situation around from serious to funny and vice versa, because that is who you are and what you are. That is your craft. And so many years later, we expect nothing less of you. But just planning for an overseas trip or a national trip, how much of work goes into it?
Now, how it is you do things by iteration. So you try something and then you adjust. Stand up kind of evolves. Um, so when I do a new show, so for example, my first show is strictly halal, and then there's certain content that is in strictly halal, a certain narrative. Then my next show, my stage show, was called For the Baraka. The one after that was called Doctor's Orders, and the one after that is called Life Begins. Now that all those shows have a theme and a certain narrative, and it's a snapshot of my life at a particular point in time, right? And if you watch the material over a period of time, you see how it matures, right? As is normal, as people get older, they become more
Of course.
introspective, they become more philosophical,
Yes,
they delve within themselves, and the material starts from being more general when you are younger to be more specific to you. And so I'm busy with a tour now, which should have been completed um, before the pandemic, but it sort of got cut short. And this show, which I'd like to film, I don't know what the name of it is at the moment. I think it will be Voices in My Head, because
wow.
the theme is about right and wrong. So it's a serious theme underneath,
Sounds
but on top of that
sounds
is
sounds
jokes,
very appropriate because it's all about the voices in your head all of the time from the
right?
beginning of your delved into the politics of our country, because that would be quite something.
Yes. So I've avoided doing a lot of that. Usually when I do a show, then there's a section of my show that is devoted to politics. For this, I think the political debates revolve around our universal COVID experience. So the more serious part of the show involves all of that. It involves predominantly the all the COVID debates that we experienced, and all the jokes about what we had to experience. It can be somewhat difficult at times because people are still dealing with the fallout of that. So
Mm,
there can be a lot of sensitivity about that still, because they say tragedy plus time equals comedy. People can laugh about things, but they must feel they have survived it. So some of the jokes I do about that is sometimes a little bit more sensitive. But that's the thing about comedy. I have to present it in front of an audience, and then I react, and then the routine sort of adjusts itself over time. So that's when I do the show, and then I film the show, and the show is filmed. Then that will be that show. But then when I do other
Oh,
shows, just impromptu, if I'm invited somewhere or do a group show, then I have a different approach to it. It's not like it's more like now I'm just gonna say whatever is gonna come to my head, and that involves old material, new material, on the spur material. I have a different approach for that. But when I do a new stand-up comedy show, which is this tour, it has to be filmed and it has to obviously have different jokes to all my previous tours, and also have a different narrative, and people have a different outlook about me, or different insights into me as a person, and as a older individual. So
Riaad, the question I'm going to ask you now probably has been put to you millions of times before. Are you still practicing doctor? And if not, do you regret having moved away? Or is this your passion? You're living your dream, you're living your passion.
no, I don't. I don't approach things with regret in a sense. I mean, like, I never planned to do this, but I followed opportunities that led me here, and I want to do comedy for the rest of my life. But at the same time, um, I also never plan not to do medicine. So I do still have an affinity for the profession, and I've been trying to work out a way in which I can some somehow maybe make funny health videos, or you know sort of figure out a way to collate my
Okay.
two to offer something that's unique. And so it's definitely not something I regret, but it also provides an opportunity to maybe do something new that hasn't been done before. Um, and because the doctor thing, it evolved. It was no dramatic thing. There was no time where I challenged my parents. I was like, "Mom, Dad, I just want to be funny," and then I to go sleep in my car and wait tables for a year until I made it. No, I was working
Okay.
actor, and I had opportunities in the television and performance space, and then those things developed organically. It wasn't anything dramatic, and it's never been sort of, I never really put myself under tremendous financial strain for my passion. It was always sort of a very, I just worked very hard at everything, and one thing led to another, and I'm in this other profession. Also that, but that being said, as you get older, you also do mature, and there's certain aspects to this profession that I'd like to continue doing, and there's certain aspects that I don't like doing. uh, and it's like when you specialize as a doctor. You work for a long time as a doctor. You go, okay, you have to do everything initially. You have to try out everything. You have to work in all sorts of, in the ER. You have to work in this department, neurosurgery, general medicine, internal medicine, um, uh, ENT. And then after a period of time, you go, okay, this is what I like in the profession, and you focus on certain things. And the same way with stand up.
Okay, so obviously you've been exposed to TV, radio, all forms of media. You do a lot of your own podcasts as well. What was your experience like with the movie material?
Now, my material was
Totally new, or
yes. Look
was
here,
it a whole
I
new?
movies. I never planned to do movies, and so material kind of made itself, in the sense that the project, the creative project, sort of took us with it, as opposed to us championing it. That's what happened. We just let it sort of unfold. Um, it wasn't my initial idea, but we had people. We just got a good team together, and it resulted in the film, and it was quite impactful in South Africa, and we got a
Hmm.
lot of awards, and that continues to be like a a a film that people have a good connection with. Um,
Absolutely.
and I was follow up up to that film called New Material, which I re-edited, and it's in a really good space at the moment, and that's why we're showing it in Dubai, and how people also will get a chance to see that one. It's a much more in a certain ways it's funnier, and in certain ways it's more mature and emotional. But obviously it's the sequel, so the first one will always be the first one. But I think that, especially in its current form with the new edit that we've done on it, audiences have been responding very, very well to it, and I actually can't wait for people in Dubai to see it on Saturday.
Is there going to be a sequel to the sequel?
Inshallah, probably a
Oh,
series though,
wonderful.
right?
You
Playing
speak about.
marriage material. That'll be the third in the installment.
Okay, wow.
Marriage.
We look forward to that. We look forward to that. You talk about going to Dubai on tour. Are you coming to Johannesburg at all? And when
Yes.
will that be?
So first of all, I'm doing Clarkstop and Mahi King next week after Dubai, and
Wow.
then I think then we'll do Newcastle and all a lot of the towns. People can check out my social media on my website for details. But Johannesburg is the end of the year. I think it's in November. No, it's like
Okay.
December, yeah.
Okay.
And
We look forward to
counting a
we
day job.
look forward to that. You have a crying baby in the background there. I won't keep you much longer. Obviously, another question that you probably get all of the time, but for the benefit of this interview, who is your favorite role model and who is your favorite comedian?
That's a mixture between Jerry Seinfeld and Chris Rock, who
Okay.
are very different,
Okay.
uh,
Yes.
but they were sort of the most influential comedians when I was starting out. But I love all sorts of comedians, but
Hmm.
I think they were most impactful on me when I was sort of starting out. So I have
Oh, sorry about that.
a
There's this cough and flu going around.
I hope I'm
Um,
better.
Riaad, as a rule, do you watch local and international artists on a regular basis? And does that influence your material in any way?
I think I think I watch stand-up comedy. I enjoy the art form, but as you get older, comedy becomes more introspective. You gotta you if you're gonna be in this business for a long time, you need to be you. So it's more about that. It's more about how can I express myself as honestly as I can and authentically as I can on stage. I think when I was starting out, I was influenced a lot by different styles, but as you get older and more mature, you got to you got to find your clear voice, and sometimes in order to find your clear voice, you need to know who you are, and it takes a long time for you to actually find who you are, before you can do that, and if you can communicate that authentic you in a funny way. So when I was younger, definitely I was influenced a lot by comedians. Now I just enjoy the art form, and I try the process of doing stand up is trying things out and hearing the laughs. And when
Hmm.
the laughs come regularly, uh, uh, then you're on the right track.
My final question, then, Riyadh. Undoubtedly, you keep an eye on young, upcoming talent as well. Tell us about talent you have your eye on, youngsters coming through the ranks. Who would they be?
The only problem with that is like I am actually out of touch at the moment because
Ooh.
I'm with my own young talent here. Yeah, like I mean, so essentially when I'm not, performing and busy with my business, I'm just with the family. So I I'm not as I don't have my finger on the pulse of what is actually happening comedically. But what I usually do is there's certain comedians, this is in terms of the Muslim comedians in Cape Town, Yasin Barnes and Sami Arif and those guys, uh, they sort of give me insight into what's happening on the ground with the younger guys. But like I don't have my finger on the pulse because a lot of times for you to know and watch those guys, you have to be, at performing at the little comedy clubs and so on regularly, which I don't have the opportunity to do. But I do know that there are a lot of funny guys coming out there. I've seen some guys on social media. They do funny things on social media, but it's a different thing to do funny things on social media than to do it in a live audience. So so we'll see, inshallah.
So,
How
Riaad, with
did
your art form, would you be able to mentor young hopefuls, so to speak? What do you believe you could do to put back into the community? And I know you've mentioned your own brood. Is any one of them, you know, very similar to you in terms of character, personality?
that,
Do we have a future
that,
little Riaad Moosa on the horizon?
oh well, a lot of them have good senses of humor and they can do impersonations like I can. A lot of them
Wow.
can do that. They have that sort of talent, but we're not really. None of them have completely expressed interest in stand-up comedy. But in terms of mentorship, I always feel I'm shy to sort of express and give people advice. I will
I
tell
believe you.
I will I will tell people my truth and what I've experienced, and this is
Okay.
how I've dealt with things. But
Mhm.
I'm one of the people who find it actually difficult to give advice in terms of this is what you should do
I-
and so on and so forth.
Is it because comedy is so personal? It's so much about yourself, how you view world situations, and how you express it in a show, in a stand-up show, in a comedic setting. Is that what
Yeah,
it's all about?
it's the audience.
Mm,
It's audience like an organism, and if there's
yeah.
the only the that that I would say you should do when you do stand up is be prepared to fail because that's the only thing you should do is go out there, try out and your material, and then listen to the response of the audience, right? Because the you'll get certain parts where people are laughing, which will be great, and then there'll be parts where people are not, and you'll be like, oh, okay, what's going on here? Now, when I was younger, I would get freaked out by that. But now today, I just sort of okay. I know that there's something there that's not connecting as much, and usually what happens is then I sort of try different variations of the joke, and usually I get somewhere with it. So what I'm trying to say is that when you do a whole tour and a whole if you're doing a whole routine, then sometimes the jokes don't come out completely formed immediately. It's like writing a book. You first of all put all your information out there and your thoughts out there, and then over the process of performing things, you edit and you
Yep.
beautify and you improve it slowly over time. And then usually usually I try to perform the show over about a year before I
Hmm.
film it. uh, most of it is the same because the nuts and bolts of it you can definitely
Hmm.
get right early on, but to have things perfect sometimes it takes just a little bit of time.
Okay, and we now have to end it there. We are running out of time. It's almost a quarter past. Your closing comments on the show this morning?
Yeah, so guys can check out my tour dates on my social media. Connections to all the stuff is on riaadmoosa.com. And I'm also doing a virtual tour for the people. I don't know if there's any people from overseas who connect to this, but I'm doing a virtual tour catering to people's time zones. So for the United
Okay.
States, I'll be performing at 2 a.m. in the morning.
Okay, we've just lost Riaad Moosa there, but we were coming to the end of the interview in any event. So we do thank him for his time, and we're going to play out with this little clip from one of his shows. Do hope you enjoyed the show this morning, and till Monday morning with me on News and Views. Take care on the roads. A big thank you to the production team. It is Assalamu Alaikum and Khuda Hafiz from me, Julie Ali.
Also, never get a lift from a Joburg Indian. Never do that. Because everything is 15 minutes. How long are you going to be 15 minutes, boss? 15 minutes? You fall back 15 minutes later, how long are you going to be 15 minutes, boss? Also, everything is around the corner. Wait, I'm around the corner. Guys driving from Bloemfontein to Johannesburg, we can say, wait, I'm around the corner. Wait, Bloemfontein? How long are you going to be? 15 minutes. What's 15 minutes?